Hey, everybody, this is Troy McClain and Tommy Alquist with Inspire Excellence. This week's podcast is a different podcast. It's going to be a raw, authentic, and hard true story about a very dear friend of mine, Nate Calvin, who ran a very successful business. And the day that he sold the business was involved in a tragic plane wreck. I want to let you know there's going to be explicit language, but it has been edited out.
You're listening to the Inspire Excellence podcast, recorded at the BVA headquarters with your hosts, Troy McClain and Tommy Alquist. Each episode is focused on shedding new light on different perspectives to create dialogue that inspires excellence.
Hey, everybody, this is Troy McClain and Tommy Alquist. We're here at Inspire Excellence, and I'm super excited to introduce one of my honestly best friends in the entire world, superstar and absolute international star when it comes to the aerospace industry. A mechanical engineer, also founder of, was it Sierra Flight Systems or Chelton Flight Systems?
Originally it was Sierra Flight Systems, sold to a larger company, which became Chelton Flight Systems.
And now current founder of Aero LED.
Aero LEDs, yeah.
Yeah. So welcome, Nate Calvin.
Thanks.
So
You're lucky I was open. I had a Twitter feud with Whoopi, so I canceled my spot I had on The View.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that.
So it worked out good.
I just got done and my chair keeps dropping. We need to fix these chairs. So, guys, I want to let you know, everybody, I am super nervous to interview Nate. When I first heard about Nate, we didn't know each other. Nate Calvin, myself, Brad Duke, Matt Rissell, and Ryan DeLuca all worked out at around 5 a.m. at the gym. That's not like we knew each other, but when you work out at 5 a.m., okay, everybody's there. Obviously, Matt Rissell goes on to start T-Sheets, sells it for gazillions of dollars. Ryan DeLuca starts bodybuilding.com, sells it for gazillions of dollars. And they would always say, like, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And we'd go, that's a dumb idea. And he'd say, hey, I'm going to get into the aerospace industry and I'm going to start this. And we'd go, yeah, that's a dumb idea.
The dumbest idea of all.
I'd go, hey, I'm going to meet Trump. And they'd go, yeah, that's a dumb idea. Brad Duke, who won $212 million in the lottery, said he had an algorithm for winning the lottery. And we're like, hey, good job, stupid, just dumb. How I meet this knucklehead, I'm benching with my buddy Ben, and we're working out. And he'd walk by, and like I'm maxing at 225, just struggling. He'd go, oh, I see you're just warming up. And he'd walk by, and I go, what a jerk. Like, I can't believe you say that. He goes, yeah, I see you're just warming up. I'm like, no, I'm actually trying to max. He goes, oh, I get it. He goes, let me show you how to do it. And he could, at that, you were throwing up 4 wheels, bro.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was. My shoulders pay for it every day now, though.
Yeah. So I decided to throw it back at him. And most people would think this is offensive. But I'm like, what a jerk. And I don't know if you know that Nate has a different gait that he walks with. So I go, all right, you challenge me to a weightlifting contest. I'll challenge you to a jump roping contest. He looks at me and he goes, oh, that's so offensive. I'm like, well, don't pick on me. 3 weeks later, he shows up at the gym. His knees and everything's are all skinned up. He'd been practicing the jump rope, and he actually out jump ropes me. That's how I met Nate.
Would you want the true story on that one?
Yeah. We always just you know how this works.
That's the Troy.
Troy tell the story, and then we look at the guest and say, "Okay, what's the truth?"
Keep in mind that Troy missed his calling to be a writer of children's books because he's got over imaginative imagination, I guess, on his head. So the truth in the morning, 5 o'clock a.m. is where true. And I see this cat walking in every day, going into jump rope. And at the time, they didn't have they had just a hardwood floor. And there was no mats or such, but he's walking in there and with his Sony Walkman and his knee-high socks.
Did you have a mullet back then?
I did.
His knee-high socks right out of Rocky 3, right? The colored knee-high
Looking
socks. Looking good. And listening to, I'm sure it was the soundtrack of Vision Quest.
It was.
I know it was.
It was.
And he goes
Journey?
Journey,
No,
yeah.
no, the lunatic friend. He's
Yeah.
pulling the Matthew Modine, trick out there, and so jumping rope. And I'm like, look at this, Jack. I'm sitting there working out, and this is actually the truth. The good number of
This is
people,
Nate's truth, just so you know.
the good number of people that end up being good friends of mine have all started with me
Which
saying,
is one.
Look
Me.
at that, Jack. And it was him.
That's true.
So he's in there doing his jump rope stuff. And so trying to, doing his warm ups. And so we got talking one day and end up challenging each other for a little bit of a wrestling match.
That's right. That is. I forgot that.
And so, but there's no mats, by the way. This is just floors. This is the same floor you play basketball on.
Yeah.
It's a hardwood floor. So that's how it began. And we're skinning each other up and rubbing each other's nose on the ground. Come out of there, and my wife says, "What the hell happened to you?" And I'm like, "Well, we're just wrestling. We're just having fun." And but we skinned each other up pretty good that day.
Yeah. What he doesn't finish the story. Now let me add to that. So he didn't say, "Oh, just having fun." He says, "Yeah, there's this guy at the gym that was making fun of me and picking on me. Unbeknownst to both of us, our wives know each other
Oh, wow.
from going to high school."
So now you're that guy with your wife.
Yeah. So his wife calls my wife and said, my wife's like, "Honey, you want to explain yourself?" I'm like, What do you mean?" "Well, I understand that you're making fun of this guy at the gym."
Well, the story was I called, left a message. I say, "Troy, sorry, I got a little over anxious on the workout and the lifting today, but man, when you started making fun of those handicapped kids, it just really,
That's what he did.
It really bothered me, and I just lost it. So I'm sorry. I'm really sorry, but we'll see you tomorrow." Because I knew you would get.
These are before these were still taped recordings on
Sure.
the voicemail. Yeah, so they're
Yeah.
taped. My wife hears this. So him and I strike this relationship out. And he's a mechanical engineer. Just left, I think you were at Simplot at the time.
Yeah, I initially started out working for Simplot on contract.
Yep. So he's at Simplot. And by the way, the title of this podcast is Nate Calvin, I would agree with you, but then we'd both be wrong. Just so you know, that's the title of this podcast. Because he will contrarian everything and it will correct everything. But we finally get into this joke mode. And we'll get into some of the jokes. But the joke mode is like, who can play the more egregious joke on each other? And so I'm like, all right. So he calls, leaves that message. Sincerely, Crystal is not happy. And I'm like, honey, he's joking. So Gold's Gym is under construction at the time. And they take down all the bathroom stalls and they just have the toilets in the men's bathroom. And so Nate has his morning paperwork that he does in the morning. So there's a fine looking young lady at the front desk in the morning. And I go to her and I say, "Hey, there's no toilet paper in the men's bathroom. I've already swept the bathroom. Nobody's in there." And so she goes walking in and there's Nate. "Oh, I bet my legs hurt." This,
Touche.
Yeah, so I was like, all right, I'll play your game. I got this game.
Yeah, touche.
But I will say that he sincerely, Tommy, has become just the best friend I have and a hell of a mentor. One of my biggest regrets, and I'll get him. I actually will say this. God, I'd never said it to you. We're always playing jokes on each other, always. And he's always giving me a hard time. He's like, "Hey, if you're 2 minutes late, 2 minutes on time, you're before time, you're on time. If you're on time, you're on time. But if you're over, you're late." 5 o'clock a.m. workout all the time. He's launching his business. He's getting going. And one morning he doesn't show. He just doesn't show. So we're always calling each other like, "Hey, where you at? Where you at?" I leave him a message. I say, "Listen, bro, you either be dead or you better be dying if you're not here." I'm on the stair stepper as I'm leaving him the message. NBC News flashes. Nate Calvin, plane wreck, dies. They
actually said that I died.
Oh, yeah. It was me and Pam Gadd. They show your face. He got in a very tragic plane wreck in Corley, and I left this message. He never brought it up. I was like, honey, that's probably my biggest regret because we're teasing, and you never ever realize, man, you don't have a contract on tomorrow. You have a lease on today. And as I'm leaving this message on NBC News, Mark Johnson shows your face and says, "Man, tragic plane wreck." So talk about that though, bud. And by the way, forgive me for that.
Yeah, I actually never knew that they said that I died. I can pull out my inner Mark Twain who says that my death, I guess the rumors of my death have been vastly overrated or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I've been flying. I started flying when I got out of school. Graduated from Moscow and driving out of there as a student, knowing that the end of my college career, like shit, I'm done being a college kid. What do I do? I mean, you get little tussles and thrown in jail in college. It's part and parcel with what you do.
Sure,
You
Tommy
know?
knows all about that.
You know, you get thrown in there. Oh, it's just like, hey, you know, this kind of guy got a little rough, a little crazy, but it's a college kid. But I'm thinking driving out of Moscow, I'm like, dude, you do this in the grown-up world. You're just a menace now. So, so I thought, well, I came up with 3 things by the time I got from Moscow to Lewiston. I'm like, I'm gonna start playing the drums again because I figured I'd be an engineer at the time until Motley Crue came to their senses and got rid of Tommy and called me in. that was my real calling, is to be
Not a
around.
bad gig right there.
Yeah, I'm now bad gig, you know, and then I'm getting a dog because it's been 5 years since I've had a dog, and then I'm gonna get my pilot's license. So that's what got me into flying. So started flying that summer and building airplanes and such. But yeah, so I started my first company with my 2 partners, and we're building aircraft. All of us were building airplanes, and saw a substantial void in the manner of technology in the general aviation aircraft, as far as computer displays and navigational systems, and anybody who's flown instruments and aircraft realizes that, you know, I've got a minor in math, and you put yourself in clouds and stressful scenarios, and you can't add 2 numbers together that literally will save your life. It just gets to be a mental overload. So we started this system that was a navigational system, and allowed synthetic vision, highway in the sky, and made it simple.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what got me into it. So we built that business up, and I think we're in the top floor of the Hawaii building at the time, and had a business trip up north. And with me and my two of my employees, and I wasn't flying that day. I was the front right, but two of my good friends and employees, and one of my really good friends that I had recruited to the company. I swear to God, he looks like Goose, right? And I used to call him Goose, and I'm of course Maverick, but not that I look like Maverick, but I fly like Maverick. So we go up there, and you know, we're going, and they were Boy Scouts. They honestly were Boy Scouts when they come to fly, and I used to call them Boy Scouts because they just everything by the book, to the point it was irritating. So we're out there at was now Jackson at the time as executive, and we're getting on this airplane, and I'm just going to climb the back seat because I've been flying a desk for the last 3 months working on the certification of our flight system. Mm-hmm. And Grant's flying, and Barry's like, no, you fly, you're front right. You know, dude, you've been behind a desk. You need to fly front right. And I'm like, no. He said, no, jump in there. So I jump in, lap up, you know, do the lap belt, ready to go. And those 2 monkeys are sitting there looking at me like, I'm waiting to start the engine. They're looking at me like waiting. I'm like, what? So we're not starting it up till you put your shoulder belt on. I'm like, you know, I says, you know, okay. So I reach back, put my lap belt on, or put my shoulder strain on, and they start up. Off we go. Beautiful day. And we pull up, wheels up 9:05, 9:15, look down. I mean, just absolutely mid-October. You can see 5 states. It was one of the best, probably the apogee of flying. It was just one of those days. It was actually amazing.
Yeah.
And it was actually so much so that, you know, there was just no cockpit chatter. Everyone was just in their own little world, just enjoying this epic day. Airplane was running like a song. We were flying 599 Lima, which was a Lancer race plane, Lancer, all carbon, you know, 330 mile an hour airplane. So it was just singing. And we ended up flying on to a private strip that we had been there multiple times before, right above I-90, pretty much above the floating green in Coeur d'Alene. You can see the airstrip. It's up in the hills. It's a private strip. And, you know, remember Grant setting up perfectly, and and perfect approach. And we're coming up, and it's on top of a mesa. And so it's a little bit of an uphill landing, which is similar like Mesa, Arizona, or Wrigley Island, if you've ever been there. And so coming in, and he picked up that visual cue. The terrain will lie to you when you're landing on Mesa. It looks like you're gonna run right inside the hill where you're perfectly on glide slope. And he picked that up and added a little power, looked down there, and he went from 107 to 111, 12 knots, which isn't a big deal, or 104 to 107. And then the fact that it was landing uphill, I think got him again, which he started his flare a little early, which again, by itself is not a problem. The increased speed by itself is not a problem. And then started the flare. And then we had when it went nose high, and I remember I had my arms crossed and legs crossed because I was just kind of giving him as much room as he needed to fly the airplane. So I'm leaned up against the right side and looking out the right wing. And we're probably 17, 19 degrees nose up. And at that attitude, it blocks off the runway pretty much because it's only about a 1,800 long strip. So you can't see the end of the runway now. So now you're looking peripheral vision. And I felt the airplane slide to the right a lot, which is just a fact of the P factor of the aircraft pull up. It just kind of slides right, which is generally countered with left rudder. And he didn't add left rudder, but again, by itself, it's not a problem. So I think what happened is the runway's 40 feet wide. He got a sight picture that he saw the edge of the runway on his left wing, which was very familiar with a 80 to 100 foot runway. So he put that edge of the runway right where the wing, he's a great pilot, by the way, right where it should be on a 100-foot runway or 80-foot runway, which put our right wheel in the dirt. And so when we slammed down, it was a drop. It was probably a 5 to 6 foot drop when he installed the airplane. It was just a hard landing. And I kind of rolled forward in my head thinking, I'm going to get out of the airplane. It's like, damn, was that landing where we shot down? It's just kind of the kind of thing you give another pilot. And, it's just a ribbing. And well, once we're in the right wheels, now in a gutter, it's like a gutter ball bowling, and it's taking you where it's going to take you. And he full powered up to try to get out of it. Wasn't going to happen. So we went into the 4 to 8 inch lodge pole pines at 120 miles an hour. So I'm sitting there looking at the right wing, and I'm like, you hit the first one, it blew off it just cut through the wing like a buzzsaw. The first 18 inches of the wingtip gone, and it went through as a perfect slice. I remember watching it, looking, son of a, I mean, that's phenomenal. I mean, those are the words in my head. That's a phenomenal. It just went through this wing like it was butter because it's all carbon fiber. So when it crashes, it looks like a formula car. Parts come off everywhere, and it's shedding energy, which is actually good. If you want to crash, you want to crash in those type of environments. And then every time it hits us on that right wing, and then it yaws us a little further right. Now we're looking more in the trees, and now the next series of trees hit about mid-span the wing, blows through the front edge of the wing, and we got about 70 gallons on board, and then it explodes that, and you get this baby blue mist, which is 100 low lead, right? It's pretty indescribable.
Yeah.
So it blows through it, and we went through that. And you ever hit a tree with an axe, swing an axe as hard as you can to see how far you can bury it in a tree? Well, there's a C-section spar. It's shaped like a C, and it hit the leading edge of that tree, one of the trees right there on the spars. It buried itself, the top and bottom flange on that C-section, buried itself in that 6-inch lodge pole, 2.5 inches deep.
Jeez.
It just went, it was unbelievable. And I remember watching that thinking, and that's where the jolt comes on, and my arms are still crossed and legs are crossed. And that did a hard jolt to the right. And I looked forward, and there's a spinner of the aircraft, and there's three trees, and they're right in front of me. They're out on my side. And I'm like, of all the luck, they're on my side of the airplane. I said, this is gonna hurt. And so I just kind of tucked my shoulder, pulled my legs back, and similar like you do, I played ice hockey and played football through all the way through high school. And when somebody has your number and they're going to hit you, you're just going to take a shot.
Yeah.
So that's exactly the scenario I got in. I said, I'm going to take a shot. And the next thing I know, I'm, laying underneath, 2,000 pounds of carbon fiber, trying to dig my way out.
Woke up unconscious.
Yeah, it's really strange. That's a real strange thing. I woke up unconscious and black. It's completely black. I can't remember seeing anything. And so I remember a good friend of mine, one of the best pilot I've ever known in my life, Gary Hubler, who was killed in Reno in 14, but took a lot of my aerobatic training through him, and he's the man. But he remembered telling the story of an accident he get in, and you read NTSB reports where the engine comes back and folds down on the pilot's ankles and legs and traps you in the aircraft. So right away, I felt my legs were pinned. I'm like, son of a bitch, I'm engine's down. Because I still thought I was sitting straight up. I felt like I'm sitting right now in this chair. So, and I had all this pressure on my chest, and my mouth was full, and I couldn't understand what that was all about. But I was like, so many stuff caught in my mouth. And so I'm pushing what I believed was the instrument panel of the aircraft. And as my senses came back up online, because essentially you got rebooted. You got like a computer reboots, and now it's got to get all of its sensors. So all the sensors, all my sensors started to come back online. And I realized that I wasn't sitting in a chair. I was face down, and I was pushed my chest up against the ground, and my mouth was full of dirt. So I had got a shovel full of dirt in my mouth. And as I'm pushing on it, I realized that I was face down and my legs were twisted a little bit pretzeled. And that's when I started to try to dig my way out of the wreckage. And so, and then the first sensation I had was my armpits just stung. I mean, it's like I was somebody bee stings my armpits. It was the av fuel. Apparently av fuel on your armpits is very stinging. I guess, I haven't tried it since, but I think I could probably reproduce it. But I think that's what it was. It was just all that I was saturated in 100 low lead.
Jeez.
So,
do you remember telling me, and Tommy, I didn't know he was going to talk about this. This is probably the first that we've ever talked about it. He had a sensation. We were talking, and by the way, after the wreck happened, there was a ton of controversy behind the wreck.
Well, I want to get into that.
Yeah, there was a ton of them.
I'll talk about that.
All right. Well, it's been a long time. We never talked about it.
Before you go on, I have a good friend of mine that survived a crash.
Yeah.
It's always been fascinating for me to hear his first thoughts that he remembers.
Well, that's what I was going to ask.
What was the first thing you clearly are like, okay, I'm in the dirt, got a mouthful of dirt, I'm digging myself out. But what's your first?
Well,
I'm doing thing goes through your mind.
Oh, go ahead. Troy.
Well, to add to that, I remember you were talking about holding your dude, but come to find out he wasn't holding anybody. But he has a great story.
Well, there's some very significant things that happened there. First thing that came to my mind when I did it was I remember just doing triage of myself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so and once I started, I dug my way out, and it's all carbon fiber airplane. So I kind of got to where I could see down. I got twisted enough. So again, like jiu-jitsu, it's like you're pretzeled on your legs, and you cannot you can't get off of your stomach. Other, I did get one shoulder around, and I got one arm out through, and so I could kind of see some daylight now. So that was okay. Now I'm heading the right direction, so to speak. I'm heading out of this, but I couldn't get my legs loose, and there was what I can only describe to as a whisker broom, whisker wire broom. It was right on my shoulder, and I was pushing on it. But as much if I pushed 18 inches, it gave 16 inches. So I only lifted whatever was on my legs a couple inches. Well, that's the main spar. That's the main spar that was splintered when we hit those trees. And in carbon fiber, it doesn't follow Hooke's law of failure. It fails catastrophically. It goes linearly up to a point, and then it just explodes. That's what's beautiful about it, and that's why it's good for a lot of things. So I'm pushing on this thing that's giving. So no matter how hard I pushed, I couldn't lift the airplane off of my legs. I got it twisted off one side, so I got my left leg under Dean, and I was able to wedge it almost like doing a hip sled in the gym, where you've got one leg to do a one-legged hip. but I couldn't get it free. So, and the guy that we're landing, he knew we were coming in, and he heard the ruckus. So he, I don't know, it was only a few minutes before he got down there. And the thing is, I can hear a flight system. I can hear the electrical system's still hot. So the fuel solenoids are going click, 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 click. And I'm like, and it's almost like someone with a lighter. It sounds like a lighter. You're like, oh shit. And I had read the book Firestorm. I think it was written by the same guy who wrote On Golden Pond about smoke jumpers that were killed in the 50s. And they talk about how people die when they're in burn, when they burn, they suffocate it because the superheated gas gets pulled in your lungs and it just cauterizes your lungs. Which I'm thinking, you know, if this thing kicks off, that's how I'm going. I'm not going down the Salt Lake Burn Center to be peeling skin off. That's not my gig. So I made the conscious decision right then that if this thing kicks, superheated gas, and we're done. We're pulling the pin and going the next step. And that was a conscious decision I made. And so I remember Brent got down there, and he's a big, strong, big guy. He's like 6'4". He's got hands like a gorilla, and he makes me feel like a little girl when I'm next to him. He's just, one of those guys, he comes up and he's like, well, trying to lift this airplane off. And then he got down there and he had all the fuel. So he had to run back up and get fire extinguishers. So I'm waiting to the thing kicks off. So he finally he was working on it, and he said he couldn't get the airplane off. And I remember looking at him straight in the eye, and my daughter just turned 2 a week earlier. And I looked at him, and I'm like, my oldest daughter just turned 2. And I looked at him, and I said, Brent, you got to get this airplane off me now. And that airplane lifted up, I swear to God, like there was a wrecker that lifted that son up, and there was 6-8 inches of clearance, and I scooted myself out. So he runs back up. Now I'm clear. He checks the other guys, and they're, and so while he was gone, and this was a weird part. First thing I came to conscious is I would call, hey, Barry, they're on the other side of the airplane. I can see his jacket and I can see their arms. And I heard as clear as we're talking today, so we're good. I heard we're good, or they acknowledged what I said. I don't know if it was yes or hey or good or whatever, but I heard the acknowledgement that they were good. So in my mind, I thought, hey, we're going to get out of this. We're going to go down here at the steakhouse on I-90, off I-90. We're going to have steak at 9 o'clock in the morning, and that we cheated death. This is going to be a good story. Come to find out, they were killed instantly. Coroner's report, they had 0. They were killed instantly, which counters my belief that I heard them. But I'm telling you, I've heard them. Now, the interesting part about this is even in the hospital, they wheeled me in the gurney, and I'm sitting there on one of those convex mirrors where you can see around the corner, so I can see the entry to the emergency room. I kept waiting for those guys to come in. I said, hey, where's the guys? And they're like, yeah, don't worry about them. You just we got you to worry about them. I'm like, yeah, they're going to be here though. They're going to be here. For 3 years prior to the accident, maybe 3.5, I'd have this recurring dream of being at a restaurant or being in a hotel and being a party of multiple. I won't say it's 3, 4, and being the only guy there. Hey, where's the rest of the guys? Oh, they're on their way. And I had that recurring dream of just waiting for these other guys. And it was like, boom, this is what that dream was about for 3 years. The other weird dream I had, and they asked my wife about this. She's like, what'd you dream about last night? Well, the dreams that you could tell her about and you could share. Right. You'd say, well, that one or the other one was the one where Subway bread ovens. Like, what? You had a dream about? Yeah. I'm looking up at these Subway bread ovens. I guess I want a Subway. For 3 years, I had that. Well, sitting in the emergency room, they had the autoclave. And an autoclave where they have all this trays of instruments. Looks like a Subway bread oven. And I'm sitting there collared up. And this nurse is cutting, these people are cutting off all my clothes and trying to get to assess the damage. And beautiful eyes of this gal. I mean, they're just like aqua blue. And I'm like, there's the Subway bread oven. She's like, this cat is looped, So Yeah, it was very surreal. I mean, and laying there, and I couldn't bend my right arm. When I was under the airplane after I was cleared, I couldn't figure out why, and looked down, and I still got little scars from it. But I had a piece of carbon fiber the size of a pencil that had embedded about my forearm that go all the way up into my armpit. So I just pulled the thing out. It was about 18 inches long. I pulled it out, and so I could bend my arm, and then I couldn't move my head. I'm like, why the hell I can't move? Again, this is that triage part. And I reached back in my head, and there's a piece of 3/8 inch piece of windshield that's shaped almost perfectly like a piece of pie that had gone in the base of my neck, and it was at the base of my skull. So every time I put my head back, I'd feel it. So I reached out, I pulled that back, and I'm like, yeah, that's not good. And I just kind of threw it aside. Like I was just not, but then my right leg, I knew something was up with that because I'd moved left and right, and it felt like a beanbag. My foot always stayed in the same position. No matter, it stayed in the same clocking position when I moved. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to see what's underneath that pant leg, so I'm going to let that one for the experts.
Yeah.
So I just kind of went through and let it all work out. But it's a fabulous. I mean, it wasn't scary. I tell people it's a lot like if you're driving on snowy roads and you put on the brakes and you're skidding, and then you realize, okay, I'm skidding, I'm going to go off into the borrow pit. That's about the equivalent of excitement in my mind that it was. It really was. It wasn't a scenario we see on the movies where people are screaming. If I'm in an airplane with multiple people and they start screaming to death, I'm going to be punching the shit out of somebody my last day. It's like, shut up, And so, it's just a little different. So than what they put on TV.
I'll let you know this. So right after the wreck again, it made the news, and I had left that phone message for him. And then I instantly called Crystal, and I'm like, honey, I've made the worst mistake in my life. I've left this phone message. And then of course they retract, and they're like, no, two have died. One has survived. And he was pilot friends with Steve Appleton. And of course, I'll let you talk about that part of it. But, Appleton had sent the plane and helped him out and stuff. But then his wife had called me, Susan, and said, man, he's in recovery and he's at the house. And Subway, him and I, Subway breakfasts, man, that was our gig. And so at lunch, I'd come by every day at lunch and, just bring the Subway sandwiches and give the kids and the wife.
Yeah, Troy was kind of an angel at that point. It really was. I mean, it was kind of a dark spot. And so the other thing you find out is, when tragic accidents happen like that, and then there's a follow-up, which is interesting story in itself, you find out who's a windsock. Windsock goes with the prevailing wind, and nature has this thing of, you see it in nature, you see a herd of 150 Malibu that are facing 2 lion. Those 150 Malibu can make mincemeat out of those 2 lion, but the lion goes for the outside and goes for one. And they get one of them. The other 149 stand there and like, okay, well, I guess it wasn't me. That's a pretty good deal. So, and he was always kind of a Malibu. This is one to let him eat him. And we're good. Yeah. But every once in a while, you'll see a group out of that said, not today. You get 2 or 3, it'll step out of that herd and said, it's me and you, let's see it. And you find out really fast who that inner circle of people are, really fast. And Troy was one of those, and it's very hard feeling, to get that when you get to the core of people, because sometimes it takes very extreme events to get to the core of people, and that's why I think why the servicemen understand that. They go to the visceral, primal level of existence, and it's why they have in my mind, why they have such a kindred brothership with these people. Mm-hmm. My grandfather, still kicking, 96 years old, just turned, World War II veteran. I was kind of a conversation with him just a week ago. What's your most vivid memory of, in your service? The people I served with. I'm like, damn, I thought maybe it was my birthday or something. His birthday of his kids and birthday of it's a serviceman. And so I understand that. It's real.
It's loyalty. And as much as we flip and talk crap to each other, you'll know that And I got into flying because of him, by the way. So I ended up getting my pilot's license as well. It really looked at Nate as a mentor, really looked at him as a proverbial guiding light, because he was marching to the beat of his own drum. He was saying, hey, I'm going to do this, even though they're telling me I can't do this. But I think it's loyalty. And that's one of the things, Tommy, I've talked about a lot. You can tongue in cheek everything, but that windsock analogy is fantastic. As fellowships, as men, we're missing that loyalty in that service. And I think that did not know you were going to talk about it. I thought we were going to stay tongue in cheek, but yeah, that was a pretty traumatic experience. And then we went to court with you, and I got in trouble for that.
Well, the court. So this is a strange thing, and this is not. So we were 9 years in this business now, roughly. I have to look back. And I had two partners that I adore. They were older than me. One of which I looked at as he was a naval pilot, mechanical engineer, and extremely intelligent. And older than I, and I took him as a mentor. And there wasn't, in those 7-8 years of developing that company, there wasn't a day that we didn't exchange emails, texts, or phone calls. It was just part of the day of that accident. I got nothing from that day forward. Not a, I'm glad you're alive, not a card, not a phone call. I was in the hospital in Coeur d'Alene, and I get a phone call from my CFO, who was on our company. Our mother company was a $3.5 billion company out of England. And so he had a conference call with their counsel and my CFO, and they called me. And this is still 30 some hours after the accident, so I'm still
less than 3 days.
Well, no, we're talking less than I'm still
day?
at the day. It was I was just out of surgery like 6 or 8 hours. So I'm still hopped up on stuff. I remember most of this. And they said, we won't have you speaking to the what they say, what's the term? The descendants of the deceased. Well, the descendants of the deceased. This is a double negative. What the hell are you talking about? I mean, so I'm trying to figure out, and my mom was there, and I look at her like, I don't know what they're saying. So she's like, and I'm like, say it again. And so my mom said, they don't want you talking to Shelly or Carrie, the wives of the two guys that were died. Shelly's there. Shelly, wow. I've already talked to Shelly, not there, but I've already talked to her. I'm sorry. And I'm like, and I had this autonomic response of, dude, it ain't happening. And I told him, and this is a quote, I said, you and the horse you rode in on. And I hung up the phone. So you're not going to tell me in this type of event to not speak as a human being to somebody who lost their husband, father, kid, and all the way. Dude, not on this. It ain't happening. I don't give a two what you do to me. They thought they had me. They're paying me this big, vice president engineering executive job with a big buyout clause, and they think they own you, dude. You don't own. I've never been motivated by money. I do things because people say I can't do them. Really,
that's
you can't. True. Really, you don't think I can do this? High school guidance counselor said I should have been a janitor. Really, I can't be an engineer. That's kind of that where it is, right? So
we'll be doing a lot of bleeping just so right now.
So that's where it. Yeah, Troy said I could cuss on.
I did say that. I said I brought the whiskey for you too. That is true. Go ahead.
And so,
if he would have said no, we would have all called him on that.
Yes, right.
So anyway, that became the legal battle. So that was October 15th, and I'm on strict bed rest now. I
battle over.
Well, listen. So that's the accident was October 15th, and so that started that drew the line. That basically started it.
But he wants to know why the legal battle.
Well, I'll tell you. So 2 days later, I'm supposed to be in there for a week, and I'm like, look, I gotta get home for the funeral. And so this is where Appleton. I called up Steve and I said, dude, I need to. They won't let me out of the hospital to fly commercial because I can only be up for an hour and a half. He says, not a problem. Flew up, took us back home. Thank you, Steve. Go to the funeral, and October 31st, 2 weeks later, I'm still on. Oh, well, we'll roll that back. The day that I got back, the very next morning. So this is the third day after the accident. I told my wife, I said, you got to get me to the gym. It's 5 a.m.
Yep, that's true.
And she goes, your doctor said you got to be on bed rest. I said, listen, I gotta put this behind me. This is what you do. When you fall down, you stand back up, right? You don't lay there and say, well, I guess I fell down. I'm down here. You get the hell back up. So 3 days after, it's a Friday or whatever it is. I guess I had to take the bus. Probably Monday. So it might've been 5 days. It
was Monday.
I called Troy. I said, hey, it's leg day, bro. But I can't do legs. I'm in a surgery cast. I'm on crutches, kind of up. I look like I just got in a fight, but hey, we can do chest or something. So I go and we work out. I come in and, people, and there's really strange people, you're in an accident like that. People, they look at you like you're a ghost, like you came back from death. I mean, people that you normally walk up and say, hey, Nate, what's going on? They look at you like, I don't know what to say. So I'm just going to pretend like he's not here. It's really weird. So I work out and I'm doing my stuff. I'm like, yep, this is it. We're, on marching forward, and here we go. I had the first follow-up visit down in Boise for that. So they cut the surgery cast off. I still remember this. I went in there with my mom and my wife, and doctor's like, how you doing? Oh, doing good. Yeah, we're good. We're rolling. He says, you staying down? And my mom and my wife are there. And before they could, I said, oh yeah, staying down in bed rest. You bed rest? Yeah, bed rest.
Sounds like you, Tommy.
And we're all the things that you need to hear. That's an answer. So yes, they start cutting the cast off, and this cast starts to just morph out, balloon out like this growth coming out of it. And it was my leg. And when you take a surgical glove and you blow it up and it has these little appendages on the end, that's what it looked like. And this doctor kind of looked at it like, and the nurse, she looked at it, she cut it off. She's like, and she took off and didn't say anything and brought the doctor back. I'm like, I look at my wife and they're looking at it. I go, yeah, that baby looks pretty good. A little swelling, but looks pretty good.
It'll be fine. I stayed at a Holiday Inn. I'm a doctor.
Rub a little dirt in. It'll be good. And so the doctor looked at it and he goes, you been staying down? I go, yeah. And then my wife, they're like, no, he went to the gym this morning. And he said, you went to the gym this morning? Yeah. I skipped leg day. I mean, tried to. And he goes, look, dude, I'm going to tell you, you are literally 3 seconds away getting pulled back in the hospital. You're about ready to lose that leg. When I meet, and he kind of gave me the rights, and my mom's there. So when your mom's there, when you get home, you can argue with the wife.
Can't argue with mom.
Can't argue with the mom.
Just so you know, to add to that, instantaneously, I get the phone call, or my wife gets the phone call from his wife, because he's my bro. I'm going to work out with him. And I'm not going to treat him differently. I'm going to treat him like, let's hit it. So my wife, by proxy, I'm in trouble.
Probably more trouble.
A lot of trouble.
It went downhill from there.
It went downhill. And he thought it was humorous.
So anyway, I'm on bed rest. Okay, strict. I get a call the 30th from my company. And of course, I got my computer on my bed. I'm going to try to get back into this. And they say, hey, we'd like you to have him come in for a manager's meeting. And my wife said, well, he's on strict bed rest, but it's been 2 weeks. And so maybe for an hour and a half, you can do this. So it's Halloween. Okay. So they load me up and get me in there on the crutches and walk in office. And again, you walk in and there's a bunch of people looking at a ghost and they're acting strange. And the conference room is generally you walk in the conference room, the table's lengthwise where, I think, okay, they had moved the conference room around to where it was pinched off in 2 corners. So, and I thought, okay, well, they moved it so I can get on the big side, the easy side. And they said, no, Nate, we'll put you over here, which is like hard for me to, okay, this is odd. But
and you're the owner of the company at this point.
Yeah. So he's the owner of his own company. And my 2 partners are there and my boss from England. They put me on the other side of the table, and 2 partners and my boss sit on their side, and they said, how's it going? Oh, good. Yeah. I talked up and said, okay, so here's how we're thinking. You can sign this paper and lose your buyout, or sign this paper and be terminated with cause. That's exactly how they brought it to me. Now I'm hiring a kite on there. I mean, I'm seriously, these hydrocodone they're giving me are the money stuff. These are probably like $500 a pill on the street type stuff. And so I had taken a few of them. And so I'm like, yeah, well, hell, that makes sense. This one seems like the less deal of it. Here you go, like that. That's exactly how much time I spent doing it.
But why the suit is what Tommy's. What was
well,
the suit?
the suit is over contract, breach contract. I think there's some, and basically you can appreciate this as a PR event. You got an executive from a aviation company making a product that's based around safety, involved in an accident that 2 of its employees and 1 of its principals were involved in, 2 of which were fatalities. It's a marketing nightmare. So their idea is, well, hell, he's the survivor. We could throw him under the bus and say, well, we've parted ways with that individual. And he was kind of an unsavory character. And, and let's be honest, you spend enough time around me, you're going to get dirt on me where you can say, yeah, he's a shit.
I can vouch for that.
He can vouch for that. So because again, I've told people I'm not socially sophisticated to be more than one guy. This is it. If you don't like this one, you're not going to like what you get in the future. So they, so to me, he's gonna love him. So I'm easy target.
A great line right there.
So anyway, I just said, yeah, let's do this thing and did it. So, and I have another rule is I will not fight over money. You'll screw me once in a deal, and okay. And if it's enough money, if it's not enough, I'm like, at least I know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
If it's enough money, I won't fight over it, but I know people who will. So that's what I did. I'm like, here you go. Yeah, you take this. And so I went and it's a breach of contract. It's plain and simple.
So we got to fast forward only because we got an hour. Fast forward goes to full jury trial. I get called as a witness because I'm the one that administrated his drugs the day that he signed that stuff.
Well, it was that, and also I think there were some. I had to go through. I had post-traumatic brain injury.
Yeah.
I had to go through Elks rehab. They gave me all these cognitive tests that these geometric puzzles and shapes and reading skills that were just normally I would have just blown through, and I had a hard time doing it. It was and Troy's guy said, "Dude, I spent some time with him. He ain't the same dude.
Wasn't the same dude.
He's not the same dude. So that was part of it.
Did you win?
I did. I did.
One with I don't know if I'm, but with egregious win.
Yeah,
meaning double the award.
Yeah, I mean, and we went and first tried to go in and said, well, we'll just arbitrate it, and their attorneys came in for 3 days of arbitration, and they flew in from New York and England, so had 3 days blocked, and it's okay, we'll do it, and first 10 minutes, yes, okay, well, here's what you're asking. To show that you're serious, we should come down from your 10%, come down 10% of what you're asking. I said, fine, let's do that. So they sent it down to them, and they came up like, I mean, we were order of magnitude off. And I saw that, and I just looked at my attorney and said, I'm done. He goes, yeah, I think we're done. I mean, we had 3 days scheduled, right? So, and this guy that arbitrated was a retired judge who'd never lost a case in arbitration, always been able to do it. He's like, well, this is my first. So I remember going down to get my ticket validated. All of them are in this glass fishbowl in there. And I poked my head in. I'm like, see you boys in court. Said, have a good day.
He won with double because it was so egregious on what they had done to him that the judge awarded more than what he was asking.
All I wanted was my contract, man. Yeah. That's just be the person you honor the contract, So, but yeah.
Let's fast forward though, because we got
business,
a little bit of time business. So I'll give you one fun story to lighten the mood. So now Nate goes out and starts another company called Aero LEDs, which is LED lights for the aerospace industry. And if you just go to Aero LED, Aero LEDs. And he builds, by the way, he builds lights for like Dragon X, the satellite, and Dragon X, the Ferraris.
Well, we've done some stuff on there. I mean, we've done U2, KC-135. We do military stuff and commercial.
And he's been very gracious with me. My nephew, as you guys know, is a mechanical engineer in training. He's a third year. And I called Nate. And I said, can you give him an internship? And he did. But Nate calls me up and says, Troy, I want to start working out again. I want to get into working out. I'm like, I'm doing this jujitsu. You might want to come check out jujitsu. What you never want to do is invite this dude in anything competitive, ever. He will squeeze your head off like a melon. So one day we're done working out and Nate has a memory like an elephant, an absolute elephant. And so we're working out, we're hanging over, like you just got done working out, you're totally hypoxiated. And he sees this other guy walk in. Now you have to know my good friend Nate, you guys. Nate is not the most politically correct guy, as you figured out. You viewers will know this. But Nate remembers if somebody tries to screw him. This terminology that I'm about to say is going to be PG-13. I don't know what it means. I never want it to happen to me. So we're sitting there, and Nate and I are just drenched in sweat. And this other jiu-jitsu dude walks in, and Nate goes, I go, hey, Nate, this guy does jiu-jitsu guy, this is Nate. And Nate goes, I know you. The guy goes, oh, yeah. And he goes, you tried to. Me. I'm thinking to myself, what's I don't know what is. I don't know it. Nate stands up and he's like, you tried to. And boom, Nate goes after the dude, has got him in the corner of the gym. We are 50-year-old men, or 47 at that time.
45, 47.
Yeah, Nate's got him in there and he goes, let me explain, Troy. And Nate starts rattling off all these algorithms and all these things that he tried to do to cheat and do this. And he goes, it's all about.
Okay, try to steal it.
Some young kid walks around the corner and he goes, he's so scared. This other kid walked around the corner. He goes, Troy, can I talk to you? Can I talk to you? I'm like, what? He goes, I don't know what it is, but I never want it to happen to me. We cannot share this on the podcast, by the way.
Yeah, back to the business. Yeah, we're 12 years in on the development. Back in 99, we got a patent in 99 on some LED technology we did for my other company. And then we thought, when the LED technology gets to this level of efficacy or efficiency in that case, we'll be able to do that. And it finally reached that point. So we launched out. I mean, we went out, we started in 2007. So it was just pre 2008, 2009 storm, right? So
great time to start a business.
Great time to start a business. Everybody's running in. There's a hurricane and we're going out in our boots to get in the water, right? so people are like, look at these clowns. And so, it's tough. And you're a manufacturer in the United States. I went through this with my other company too. You essentially are business with leprosy.
Yep.
You're a manufacturer in the aerospace, blah, blah, blah. They want nothing to do with you. And, you go in year after year, we'd go in to ask for an operating line of credit. And they give you it's the same stuff. Oh yeah, well, we have very competitive rates. I was like, oh God, okay. So what do you got? Well, we'll approve you for $100,000 line of credit, floating line of credit. Oh, great. So what do we need to do? He says, well, you need to write me a check. Okay, for how much? 100,000.
They're great at giving loans to people who don't need them.
Oh, so I give you $100,000 of my money and you lend it back to me? Yeah, at very competitive rates. I'm thinking, whoa. Well, I'll tell you what, how about I'll pay a little more than you do? Whatever you pay, I'll pay myself double that. I'll go in business for it. But yeah, it's really tough. And you're not a disadvantaged business. You're a white male. You're screwed.
It's tough.
You're screwed. And they ask you, I said, woman owned? No. Minority owned? No. But my dad's not Trump or anybody like that. I don't have any family money to speak of. I mean, I grew up 3 miles from here. I mean, I grew up topping corn 2 miles over here. Mm-hmm. This field that we're sitting on right now, I used to run water pipes on. I used to throw hay just one mile south of here. And, it's so I haven't, I grew up with nothing more than just a good, honest work ethic.
So I'm going to ask you to do a couple things that we got to wrap up. One, give us your top 3 to 5 rules in business. And while you're doing that, I'm going to ask you to look up Baldy the Eagle, because I'm going to tell everybody Beauty the Eagle. Look up Beauty the Eagle. And as you're thinking about your 3 to 5, I want to tell our listeners and tell Tommy, as he literally is one of my best buds, and he literally is legitimately the smartest guy I know. But he's the dumbest smart guy I know, because he doesn't realize how smart he is, and he doesn't realize how kind he is. He doesn't like people to know this. But Beauty the Eagle was a bald eagle. Nate Calvin is a patriot. He's an American. He really believes in giving back.
Yeah.
He's the only engineer that figured this. There was a bald eagle that got his beak shot off in Alaska, and they were going to kill the bald eagle. And there was no engineering design or anything that someone can come up with. Nate, in his own accord, said, I can come up with something. I can figure it out. So Beauty the Eagle, in his own time and his own dime, Nate figured out how to engineer this. And so I'll give your 3 to 5. You got your 3 to 5 rules, and then
I
we'll
don't know,
watch
3 to 5. I mean,
give me some of your
my
philosophies.
first one or top one is value engineering.
Hold on.
It's something that the value and cost, and everyone who works with me knows this. And I ask people at the end of the day, just be accountable for your time. And this is a metric. I've never been employed by anybody. I got out of college and I'm largely unemployable, just because it's different. So I've always measured my day based on my billable hours. I may have gone in and worked 10 hours, but when at the end of the day, could I bill that guy 10 hours a time? And I always ask myself, there are times that I'd rack up my time and say, oh, I got 45 hours. And I'm like, I can't charge him 45 hours. I took the wrong path here. I did something stupid here. I made a mistake here. I can't make him pay for that. So at the end of the day, I might have reduced it to half that time. And I said, that's the billable time, because I would write myself a check for what I delivered. And I tell everybody who works for me, at the end of the day and end of the week, when you're looking at that check, multiply that number times 1.4, because that's the true cost to me. And then ask yourself, would you give yourself that much money for what you delivered in that pay period? And if the answer is no, you're stealing from me. Or and if you're honest with yourself, it's true, because honestly, that's where you need to be. Everything is done on those billable metrics. And I even in this business, I had a partner, a third partner, and he's awesome. We had a year and a half to develop it, and his time, he was used to larger companies, and he was billable at 10%. And I told him, I said, dude, you got a choice. One of 2 people is out of this company at the end of this meeting. It's going to be me or you, because I'm paying $1 for you and I'm not getting 10 cents, and we can't. I need $2 output for every dollar for the next 2 years, or we're done. And he, being the person, he was more interested in the advancement of the company than he was himself. He said, I'm out. So we brought him back on contract, and I would say, here's what I need to do. How much dollars? And he vacillated a lot, but he finally came up with a number. And I said, okay, I'll give you this many dollars for that project. Good. And that's where we redefined a relationship. So when you're starting a business, that 2-to-1 ratio is real ratio. If you're not getting $2 of value for every dollar you spend, you're in trouble. And you're basically in a tailspin. And so you got to break that, and you got to be positive ground, because you're going to have setbacks that you can't predict. So you got to try to bias yourself. So I'd say that's my number one. I don't know if I had count 2 or 3.
That'll work. All right. Well, Nate, we appreciate you being on the show. We'll talk after cameras are off, but Inspire Excellence, everyone. That's Nate Calvin, and learning how to light up the sky from the ups and downs. Tommy Alquist, Troy McClain.
You've been listening to the Inspire Excellence podcast. We invite you to find something that inspires you this week. Join us again for our next episode.